Elise, Fresh, Caitlyn. Okay, so again, very similar bans. Probably not completely identical. Again, not banning out the Castan. Again, not banning out the Renekton. It's interesting. These are blanket bans they're bringing out, but they're not really specializing against Copenhagen Wolves, even after they've had a chance to feel what it's like to play against them. And at the moment, it just seems like they're not scared. It's like, okay, you can play your next, and we don't even care. We're just going to go whatever.
Yeah, and it seems to me as well, Pulse, that both teams desperately want Lee Sin first. Because every time we've casted, been in the Champion Select, it's been Lee Sin first pick. So this time around it's going to be for Avalanche. And it's going to, however, as you mentioned previously, leave Renekton open, and Youngbuck will happily snap that one up. It's just his go-to champion. He's so strong, Renekton. When champions are picked against him as well, if Renekton's taken against him or banned, he'll just go with the Vlad. He's just very good.
Yeah, it's a huge confidence play as well to pick out the Lee Sin, because many, well, just random normal, your normal run-of-the-mill player will just fall flat on their face when it comes to playing Lee Sin. But these guys really know the champion, they know how it can fit into their team compositions, and it's worked out every single game, even if it hasn't won them the game as a whole. And again, Shyvana has been picked up this time by Copenhagen Wolves, and Youngbuck will be on this classic Renekton.
So really interesting here. They're going to go for the Shyvana instead of the Evelynn, which we saw last time that where Amazing had Elise banned against him and the Lee Sin was first locked in. So just going to show again that the pool of champions that Copenhagen Wolves bring to the table is just astronomically big. We've said this time and time again, haven't we, Paul? So you just cannot ban Copenhagen Wolves out. You take loads of their champions away and hey, they've got another 5 or 6 to play with individually. Very difficult. The side of Avalanche, I would be pretty amazed if Teemo gets locked in. So yeah, they have just switched it on over. Looks like it's going to be Nasus and Lucian. Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting. Avalanche have gone for very unconventional picks. It might be a case of this is the new season, we'll try everything out and we'll try it against a very solid team of Copenhagen Wolves. And hell, if it works against Copenhagen Wolves, it's probably going to work against everyone else as well. So they're definitely looking to be innovators, and they're also looking to throw curveballs, because honestly, who's played against Lucian in competitive play?
It's certainly not one of those top champions that you are used to seeing in the EU scene. I do, however, know from watching, the NA streamers like I'm a Cutie Pie and such, that he loves Lucian. He actually thinks that Lucian is OP right now. So maybe it's a case it's going to slowly but surely find itself on the EU servers, and we're going to see more and more of this awesome AD carry played. I got to say, from an AD carry's perspective myself, I love playing Lucian. I think he's awesome. The only thing that kind of throws a curveball to me though is his ultimate. I can never quite lock that down. It's such a mind screw.
Yeah, the pea shooter, as I like to call it. It's just, it doesn't have the same punch as what you expect it to have, and it's very difficult to aim as well. At the moment, we'll see what Copenhagen Wolves bring out into their bot lane. They're currently hobbling over Fiddlesticks, which definitely makes sense against Lucian. Fiddlesticks' Terrify is usually longer than most AD carries' ranges, so he should be able to land that regardless. And plus, he doesn't need to pop it, use Dark Wind to pop anything like a spell sheet either. So it will definitely work against that Lucian lane. Again, we could see lane swap-ups. And they've also brought out the Nasus, which is something I felt they should have brought out the last game, but they went with Cinch instead. This time, I still think it will work very well against Renekton.
Wow, some really interesting lock-ins potentially on the cards here. Soraka and Lucian at bot lane would be a first for me, I think, Pulse. I don't think I've casted them two together before. A bit of an odd couple. Orianna makes a lot more sense, especially alongside characters like Lee Sin and Nasus, who are both good at ball delivery systems. But for Soraka to get locked in at bot, it's kind of a declaration of intent. They just want to farm up and let Lucian get huge, because it doesn't really do a great deal against Vayne. It's just going to negate a lot of the damage, and they've actually gone for the lock-in. So I expect the bot lane here for Avalanche to be pretty passive and just try and get some farm against Vayne. That being said though, if you do that, you run the risk of letting Vayne get to late game.
This is interesting. One of the biggest criticisms of Lucian, and something people were saying when Lucian was released, is the only thing that's holding Lucian back from being an amazing character is his mana issues. We might see Soraka starting to max and fuse just to pump him full of mana and allow him to be very aggressive. The downside of having Soraka is she's not a very aggressive support. She can pump him full of mana, but he's just going to have to be the aggressor. He essentially has to 1 versus 2. That's very difficult to play against. At the same time, I fully agree with you, Metas. It lets Vayne farm up, but it's a matter of how well can Lucian do, and it's pitting a lot on Lucian as well. It's interesting, it's a matchup that definitely works, there's a lot of synergy. We'll have to see what it does in practice though.
Yeah, because one of Soraka's main keys, as you've just said before, is the mana and the health that are going to be constantly spammed are good with Lucian, but one of the downsides, I guess, from Vayne and also Unlimited's perspective is that with Soraka having the armor buff as well that she gives you with her heal, they're going to be able to trade pretty well as well, Pulse. They're going to be able to go in for those 1 to 2 shot trades, and if anything, Lucian's going to come out ahead of those engages. My only worry, however, is if Soraka gets feared and knocked against the wall from Vayne with a Condemn, could be dying very quickly in lane.
Yeah, and the problem is they have very weak all-in potential at level 6. Yes, they can go for those small skirmish fights where he'll probably do more damage than Vayne will, but hit level 6 you've got Crowstorm and Final Hour to contend with, and they just don't have the same trading power. Soraka can't really use E to be her source of harassment, and she can't use Q either without pushing the wave. She can't use E because the whole point of picking Soraka with Lucian is that she pumps him with mana. That's kind of what they're looking for here. So they don't have that on their side, and they don't have the trading either. We'll see how this turns out. Again, someone might throw a lane swap up, and all of this theory crafting is just out the window.
Yeah, plus I would like to draw attention as well with the fact that Soraka can silence. So could very well not just go ahead and replenish Lucian's mana, but go ahead and silence the Fiddlesticks as well, which is going to negate a lot of the presence that he has in lane. No more fear, no more Dark Wind with the silence as well. So definitely interesting to watch out for. That being said though, ladies and gents, 2 minutes 30 on the delay remaining. We're going to cut to a very quick commercial break. When you rejoin us, we'll be live for game number 4 between Copenhagen Wolves and Avalanche. Currently 2-1 in Copenhagen Wolves' favour. Let's see if Avalanche can pull this one back. We'll be right back straight after this.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to EOS Challenger Series and Chaos TV's live coverage. I am Pulse and joined by Metas, who already have an aggressive play by Avalanche, is currently 2-1, advances to Copenhagen Wolves.
Yes, indeed it is, and both teams looking like they want to play a bit aggressive here. Avalanche going into the jungle already of Copenhagen Wolves, and Copenhagen Wolves are going to return the favour here, Paul. So could very well be planting down some wards and trying to bait this one out. Not entirely sure, but neither team's going to get any kills for the next little while.
Yes, indeed. There's currently no knowledge from either of the teams, except that they're not where they currently are. Avalanche haven't gone all the way and gone straight for that red buff just yet. Now they're going to turn the corner. Ward goes down in a very interesting position, but that will show them when someone heads to lane, and they'll know then that their top laner has at least recalled. And the fact that they haven't seen the top laner yet means that they know they've gone for some sort of aggressive play, or they're at blue.
Yeah, a flurry of wards have been planted down from both teams, so that's going to give them plenty knowledge about where the opposition jungle is going to be headed and their jungling path. So maybe some counter plays in the next couple minutes here, Pulse. Looks as though we are going to have the lane switch up though, with Vayne and Fiddlesticks, Forgiven and Unlimited occupying top for Copenhagen Wolves, and that looking like it could very well be against the Nasus. But speaking of Nasus, they're going for the red steel.
Yeah, this is interesting. Hey, Nasus are going to be 1 versus 2. Nasus can do very well in a 1 versus 2 situation, but they're already transitioning, I want to say Avalanche, but Avalanche's bottom lane into the top lane, so the duo lanes will still be duking it out. But, yeah, this is exactly what they want. They want the Lucian and Soraka to be against the Vayne and Fiddlesticks. This is exactly what they wanted because they picked into it, and Youngber's going to be starting off of those walls, trying to get the experience, but they know they've swapped them up, so therefore he has to get to lane as fast as possible because he knows Nasus is there. Lots of things happening early game.
Yeah, and that's not just down to the fact that they're feeling like Muther and Sliver can do well against the Vayne Fiddlesticks, but it's also not allowing Vayne to go in a 1 versus 2 lane and just getting completely free farm, because then getting into the mid to latter stages, Forgiven is going to be crushing through absolutely everybody. And it's interesting for me as well actually here, Pulse, that the same AD carry is being played from Reckless and Forgiven. Reckless is known for his awesome Vayne and Caitlyn play, and here's Forgiven doing exactly the same.
Yeah, the new replacements for Copenhagen Wolves lineup are very similar to what they had before. I would say Amazing is a very similar jungler to Shook. I'd also say that Forgiven is a very similar AD carry to Reckless. They play the same champions, they have the same champion pulls, and their playstyles are very, very similar. In the bot lane though, Anstrom should have a very good time against Youngbook. Youngbook probably can't push Nasus out, he doesn't really have the damage, and as soon as Anstrom has a difficult time, he either pushes the wave with Spirit Fire, as you see right now, or he just sits at his turret and farms on the turret. There's so much counterplay for Nasus, it's very difficult for Youngbook to do anything at all. I'm very interested in the top lane, however, seeing if Sliver has enough damage with his Lucian and also the Soraka matchup to really shut down that Vayne.
Oh, well, speaking of which, he has just been terrified from Fiddlesticks, condemned against the wall. They're going to get quite a bit of damage, and actually the Ignite's been popped as well, alongside the exhaust from Muther. So already this duo lane of Avalanche is taking a pounding, but they do have a Soraka. That sustain is going to come very useful right now if they can just stay underneath the tower, heal back up, and they should be good to go.
Yeah, mid lane, Big Goose just got pummeled by Amazing's gank, was forced to flash out, so slight advantage will now go to Kaltant, as it makes it very difficult for Big Goose to do anything at all, even farm underneath this turret. Top lane, more aggression comes out, and at the moment, doesn't look like Lucian and Soraka's paying off.
Yeah, that is true, but I just saw their move there just instantly silencing Unlimited when they were walking towards the AD carry of Sliver. So again, you can start to see why the Soraka was picked up, keeping him in lane, getting some farm, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this one pans out at level 6. As you said before, level 6 in terms of Avalanche isn't necessarily huge and colossal, but they do have a lot of heals coming in from Muther.
Yeah, indeed, Soraka makes a lot of sense against Fiddlesticks. She can silence him as he heads towards Lucian to try and terrify, can also disrupt the channel when he's using the Crow Storm, which is really good, but that's as far as the Soraka pick goes. Yes, there's some synergy with Lucian, which is why they paired them up, but against a Vayne, I honestly don't feel that they have enough poke to take it out unless they have the intervention of the jungler, which as a straight up matchup you can't really factor in. And plus, when you have a duo lane, it's very difficult for the jungler to make anything happen. But either way, mid lane looks like it's going to be the next point of contention as both junglers head on in.
Yes, they do. Dan has taken a lot of punishment right now. Flash coming in from both Dan and Amazing, I believe. Yes, they were. So 2 summoners have been popped off there, plus the flash previously from Big Goose. And that's probably why Amazing is lurking around mid, knowing that Orianna is ripe for the taking.
Yeah, and again, Shyvana is still sticking around. She can probably just push this wave out because there's very little the Big Goose can do about it. Can't use her ball to really CS underneath the turret, but has done a good job, at least for this next wave. And in the top lane, even though we said they don't have enough poke and enough trading potential, for the short term, it's really going to benefit them because Soraka will just grind you down because of that battery healing. So that has pushed them out first. It will give them a slight advantage, the ability to push the wave to their turret. And meanwhile, in the bot lane, Jungkook just, again, waning against Anstrom. But honestly, this is not good times as he gets stuck on the minions. But again, he just can't do anything against Nasus. Difficult times.
Yeah, we are going to find out which of the brothers are stronger at bot lane, as Youngbuck has just leveled up to 6, so Dominus is available. Must realise that the Fury of the Sands is not far behind. Here comes Lee Sin as well, so they're going to be trying to take down Youngbuck. The Crocodile is angry. Can he slice and dice away? There's the Dominus as well. I don't think it's going to be enough. In fact, it will be with the Flash. And even though Nasus went in with the Spirit Fire, not going to be enough to claim that first blood.
Yeah, he wanted one more Cycling Strike, but it wasn't quite there. It was very well timed though by Lee Sin. It wasn't just a gank because of the opportunity, it was a gank because he knew he was level 6, but he's heading around the side, knowing that Amazing is there is going to make Lee Sin think twice about looking for the tower dive, but he knew he was level 6, that he would kind of bait it out of Anstrom. Also being level 5, and Amazing has found himself caught by Dan. Not sure if they can go the full way though. Winter comes in, however.
It does. This is not looking good for Amazing right now because Dan from one side, Nasus from the other, and Renekton has had to go back to spawn. Youngbuck was too low, and they are going to pick up not just the first blood, but very likely the blue buff on top of that, which Zyra so desperately requires. So Kautard is going to be a bit weaker in mid as a result, plus that first blood going into the hands of Lee Sin.
Yeah, extremely convenient timing, taking down the jungler and immediately going into the blue buff. And honestly, the next play from Lee Sin needs to be, in fact, they're just going to go for Drake. I was going to say back off, make sure they secure their own blue buff from the counter jungling from Shyvana, but again, convenience. They've gone from a kill to the blue buff and take another advantage, and they pick up the first Drake as well.
Such good play, and that's the power of Nasus. Once he hits level 6, the Fury of the Sands is just so good for picking up early dragons. In fact, a lot of jungle Nasuses will try and pick that up as soon as they hit 6 by themselves. They don't even need any help, but between the two of them, they're going to be absolutely fine. Let's turn our attention to top lane, however. We were talking before about how Lucian's going to be just fine with the fact that he's got Soraka's heals, but if you have a look at the CS differential here, Pauls, 22 against the dual lane of Avalanche. This really not working out too well for them thus far.
Vayne just needs to survive the lane to be useful as you get into the mid and late game. Not only has she survived, but she's honestly ahead by a significant margin. This time Dan is going to look to do something. He sees Unlimited, probably going to wait until he uses the Q. Now onto Forgiven, he jumps over the wall looking for the engage.
It does, but that tumble could very well have saved Forgiven's life, tumbling away from the Dragon's Rage back to Sliver, and now they're chasing after Unlimited, who's forced to flash. Here comes Shyvana, Dragon's Descent has been utilised, the Unlimited is going to be running away as Kautard joins the fray. So lots of abilities burnt in the process, but neither team lose a player.
Yeah, P-Shooter did not quite pay dividends for Sliver, and we'll just head on back to lane. Forgiven going to go ahead and recall. Honestly, I think he probably could have stayed in, but he's got enough of an advantage. He doesn't need to push it any further. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, we've got the 2 1 versus 1 laners butting heads, but I think that's as far as it's going to go.
Yeah, but should be fine. Lee Sin's coming down, but he has been spotted by a ward, and Spidey senses were tingling, so he's just going to go back and pick up his red. But let's take stock here. 800 gold, not a great amount of difference, but that first dragon was picked up from Avalanche, and that goes to show that with the first blood and the first dragon, they're still only 900 gold ahead. They're pretty far behind on terms of CS.
Yeah, and they have to contend with a Vayne when we hit late game. However, they have an answer in the form of Nasus. He can wither down Vayne, then she answers with a Quicksilver Sash. So it's basically a matter of how far ahead does Nasus get to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, they're going to have to do something about Vayne before she becomes too big of a threat. Lucian's not really worked out, but in the bot lane, if they could pick up a kill, that would be fantastic.
Well, Q has landed, and the Wither as well. Youngbuck instantly has to pop off his Dominus. Do they have enough damage? Ignite's been used on Dan. Can Youngbuck manage to escape back to his tower? The answer is no. Dragon's Rage raining out, and the Siphoning Strike finishes things off nicely. Youngbuck has been camped pretty hard at bot lane. Still 72 CS though.
Yeah, Nasus is behind in terms of CS, but is now caught up because of the kill and the global objective in the form of Dragon. So the bottom lane's going well, but he's not far ahead of Renekton. And still, Vayne is doing exceptionally well. She's actually just battering down the front door and pushing down Sliver's turret, and there's nothing he can really do about it, but mid lane, Engage comes in.
Stranglethorns knocks on a Big Goose. He's going to have enough damage to pick this one up, but it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade with the assist gold going in as well for Copenhagen Wolves. Mason's going to push that lane. Top lane, no pulse. Looks like something may be happening. No, I thought Unlimited was going to go ahead and fire off the Crow Storm.
Yeah, they realised where he went and just fired out the Ardent Blaze despite not actually having the vision. But it just means that Unlimited knows they know where he is, so he can't just go in for the Crow Storm. But at the same time, there's no point in moving, because it still means at any point in time he can just jump in with the Crow Storm, and he's just using that as a zoning tool, a lot like Blitzcrank will use his hook.
Yeah, it's really smart play, because you can see from Sliver and Mouver's movement, they're like, we don't really want to go near the CS, because if he comes out the bushes with the fear and the ultimate, we're kind of screwed right now. So we're just going to wait for the CS to push our tower. He's actually used his ultimate to clear this one out, which is actually pretty smart. He's not going to miss any of this CS and do a bit of damage to Forgiven as well. Yeah,
that's probably the biggest use of Lucian's ultimate at the moment, is just wave clear. It's kind of what Miss Fortune's ultimate used to be until Miss Fortune's ultimate was amazing because of Black Cleaver. But that's kind of where Lucian's at the moment until he gets to scaling. And right now, Shyvana's still waiting in the wings. Both of these junglers on the same wavelength.
They certainly are. 6 players at top. Ultimates aplenty are available. Here comes Amazing from the side. Is Dan going to be able to make some plays? Misses his cue to that coconut. Not going to be connecting. Had it have connected, I would not have been surprised if he'd manoeuvred round Dragon's Rage Vayne back into Mouver and also Sliver and tried to pick up that kill. That being said though, hindsight 2020 didn't happen.
Yeah, the fight was very dependent on people landing the skill shots, and no one landed the skill shots, so everyone just kind of petered out and backed off. In the bot lane, still Anstrom being pushed around by Youngbuck, but it's again just not enough to push him out of lane. It's interesting to me that he's maxed Spirit Fire over Siphoning Strike, when I definitely feel that's a lane, but he's popped his ultimate and they trade this one out.
Yeah, two brothers going toe-to-toe right now. Youngbuck is pretty strong. Angstrom is standing right here, though, against him. Well, this is going to be really close. Both junglers are coming down. Both mid laners are too. Neither of them fall as a result. Are they going to try and make some plays? Dan going to be tower diving down. Instantly has to safeguard away. Here comes Amazing, who's so big in Dragon's Descent. However, he's going to do enough to push back Avalanche.
Yep, both of the mid laners come back into the fray, and again, everyone backs off and kind of peters out. Both of these teams are really respecting how strong the counter engagers are, so that kind of nothing really happens. They want to go for the engagement, and it's really just down to these junglers reading each other and knowing, well, I would probably go there if I was Lee Sin, or I would probably go there as Shyvana, so I'll just go there myself. And that kind of counters each other out.
This game really does reinforce my opinion that League of Legends is almost like a game of chess.
Yeah.
You're constantly trying to outmaneuver your opponent. You're trying to get the upper hand on them and maneuver them in places that puts them in a precarious position. Youngbuck and Anstrom are now going to butt heads again with it instantly down. Going to be trying to slice and dice his way out. He should be just fine here.
Yeah, but this has kind of hit the point where Nasus is stronger than Youngbuck, at least for the first or the next couple minutes, and that's very scary, because the annoying thing with Nasus when he's not touched at all is that he will eventually hit that stage where he will kill you one-on-one. That's really annoying, but ultimate comes in from Unlimited.
Oh, wrong place, wrong timer, because Dan was stood right there, so you're ultimating into a 3 versus 2 situation. It is going to backfire. Fiddlesticks gets taken down from the AD carry. That's good news for Avalanche. There's much needed kill at the top lane.
Yeah, the culling came out and actually landed everything as well. The culling is a very difficult skill to land. It takes a lot of skill to make sure that everything finds its mark. But either way, again, I just want to talk about this bot lane because Nasus, generally he's not played that much in a solo lane in competitive play because people see it as too easy to shut down. But they have Shyvana and Youngbuck. He just can't do anything against it. You can't trade in that circle of Spirit Fire.
Top lane, the tower has been taken now off the back of that kill. And doing a lot of damage to Forgiven as well. So he has to be careful. He's on 1 versus 2. Fiddlesticks is coming back, in fact heading towards mid. So with that first tower down, do you think the Avalanche are now going to renegotiate their position? In fact, Youngbuck's at bot lane. He could be dying right now. Indeed, he will be, I would imagine. Slice and Dice comes through, but you got Dan chasing after him. Dragon's Descent comes in. forcing the Dragon's Rage from Lee Sin. They've turned this back around. Soraka heal comes in too little too late from the perspective of Anstrom, and Shyvana once again amazing pixel perfect positioning with that Dragon's Descent and completely neutralizes that gank. Now the Terrify comes in, they can actually go back onto Dan, who's already used his ultimate. There's a long way to travel to get back to the Sanctuary of his own team, forced to flash through the wall, and no, there's not going to be Counter there to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, excellent read from Amazing. We'll transition into a Drake onto the back of that as well. And that was literally just down to the junglers having that superb game knowledge. That's kind of what makes a good jungler. It's what makes and breaks poor junglers from big ones. It's because they know exactly where the enemy jungler is, what they will do in their position, and just having that knowledge of how the matchups are going and keeping track of everything as it happens in real time. And Amazing was just in the right place at the right time, not because out of coincidence, but because he knew exactly where he needed to be.
Yeah, I was curious to see if they would kind of rotate the picks here and take their dual lane bot, but it doesn't appear to be the case right now, where by and large Lucian and also Soraka are happy to just stay at top against Vayne and Fiddlesticks and allow the brothers to wreak havoc upon one another at bot lane. Unlimited's actually joined bot, so maybe it's a case that they're just going to allow Vayne to get some free farm at top by himself, but I've got to say, this is putting Forgiven in a really terrible position for right now, because he's so scared that if he comes out here, he could end up dying. That being said though, the duo he's against are just going to be recalling.
Yeah, it looks like the duo is just going to roam about the map. They may indeed go mid lane and try and force that one in as well, but Anstrom doesn't need to go anywhere. He's winning against Youngbuck, something that couldn't be said for his last couple games on Singed, and he's only ever going to get stronger, and Renekton will only ever get weaker. Right now, he's barely scratching him, and Anstrom, if he turns around and trades, and if he forces Youngbuck into that situation, he will inevitably and over time win, and he actually goes for it.
He does. That is the ultimate from Nasus raining down. Sunfire Cape to face off against those, so that's going to be neutralizing a lot of the damage that Anstrom puts down. He's going to be going past the tower right now, down round from the backside. Shyvana as well. Question, which jungler is going to have the biggest impact? Youngbuck comes in again. Shyvana claiming up the kill. Amazing is doing such a phenomenal job at bot lane. Youngbuck has certainly got his back taken care of, courtesy of that flying dragon. And again, they pick up the kill on Anstrom, and they're going to look to push this lane.
Yeah, Shyvana has done so much work for their team. Amazing is so good at reading his opponents and knowing what they're going to be focusing on. In the top lane, though, looks like we might have the engagement. In fact, Unlimited's just going to walk on out of here.
Yep, with Vayne as low as Forgiven is right now, they can't really afford to go toe-to-toe with Lucian and also Soraka. So, you know, we got past that early stage with these two, and they seem to be out-trading Vayne and Fiddlesticks right now. Yeah,
so this game is very interesting, Metas. We have the slight kill advantage and the tower advantage to Avalanche, yet they're still behind, because not only are they losing in gold, but Unlimited looks like he's gonna fall here.
Oh wow, that burst damage, but can Forgiven turn this one back around? Don't think it's too likely. Does have Blade of the Rune King, however, and is going to be going in super deep. Here comes Teleport from the side. Can he survive long enough? Yes, he can. He's going to pick up one kill. I don't think he's going to survive. There's the Wither, and another kill to Nasus. Impressive, though, that he would even get a kill in the first place. That was not looking good for him at one point.
Yeah, 2-for-1 trade, and they burnt the Nasus teleport, which is arguably better for Copenhagen Wars, because now it means Youngbuck can push to his heart's content, and there's no one to stop him. Sliver's up in 15 seconds, he's going to be the person who's going to stop them, and it forces Avalanche to make this play where they push top lane. They can't do anything to react to Renekton. That means that they'll put the Shyvana in top lane, he should be able to clear the wave, and it's a question of how fast can they push. But they have Anstrom up there, who has stacked already on his Cycling Strike.
Could you just take over for a few more seconds? My client just crashed.
Yeah, no problems. And Shyvana comes into the top lane, actually heads on to Anstrom. We might have the engage here, 2 versus 3. Now 3 versus 3 with Kaltod coming into the fray. Doesn't quite connect the grasping roots as they still follow up, and Anstrom does not quite. In fact, he does have his ultimate. He could turn around at any second, but Terrify comes in. Auto attacks come out, and now the ultimate comes out. He's just using this as a delaying tactic as Vayne comes into the top lane. Bot lane, they did manage to clear up the Youngbuck. Now, Lee Sin heading around the corner as Amazing just farms up his golems. See if they can reclaim a kill. It's looking unlikely, but he's just going to pick out the kill onto the big golem as Amazing loops around onto his red buff. Going to be very careful. He realizes the fact that Dan must have stolen his golem means he's around the area. And with that warded, we'll see what happens. And Metas, you are back into the action.
I am. Apologies. Had some weird client issue, but it seems to have resolved itself now after restarting it. Dan and was in the opposition jungle, going to be safeguarding, ward jumping, and just fine. So this game, similar to the first 2 we casted, Pulse, is just neck and neck.
Yeah, so, well, I've got a point, but now that they're pushing down the mid lane, it's worth holding on to that, but Soraka takes a lot of damage in the top lane.
He's not looking good again. Forgiven in a 1 versus 2 situation. He's going to try and outplay his way through this one. Blade of the Rune King has already been used, flashing away as well. Could very well be fine. Here comes a Crow Storm. Meanwhile, from the side, courtesy of Unlimited and Dragon's Descent as well. They're looking to turn this one back around. Big Goose does not want to play risk with his life. He flashes instantly. Moveair's not looking too hot right now. Will be falling as well from Shyvana. Amazing. He's having such a good game. 4-1. Are they going to re-engage though? Stranglethorns knocks up the Anstrom and Nasus, but it doesn't look likely. I think they're just going to both back away.
Yeah, they're taking a lot of damage, and they cannot afford to stay in that small environment, especially when they have so much AoE from Zyra and so much AoE from Amazing, but the Shockwave comes in!
So many staggered engages as the Q and the Coconut will land beautiful mechanics to knock Countdown back into the fray. They're going to pick up that kill at the expense of Lee Sin's life, however. And blue buff went down as well. This is such a fast, frantic game. And while all action breaks loose at blue, have a quick look at Renekton. He's just chilling at bot lane.
Yeah, it's blow for blow, but this is blow for blow 4 versus 5, and Youngbuck just doesn't even care about what's happening on the rest of the map. He's just gonna stick in that bot lane. And Nasus, while he needs to be there to farm up and stop Renekton from pushing, is kind of the opposite of what you expect to be happening in this game. And Copenhagen Wolves, they're really adapting to Avalanche's style of play. We saw this best Dignitas yesterday, but they've reacted to it very well. It's like, okay, what, you're going to split push? We'll do the same thing, but we're going to be better at it because you're giving us the picks that we're very comfortable with, and you've given Youngbuck his Renekton. So your split pushing in the form of Nasus or your split pushing in the form of Singe is going to be mitigated by our Renekton.
Yeah, and Youngbuck is so good on Renekton as well, so he knows his weaknesses as a character. He knows when to go back, he knows when to gamble. That being said though, he's just found himself in a pretty nasty position. Anstrom and also Dan are chasing afterwards with the other 3 players from Avalanche congregating around this area. Can they pick up any kills? Flash from Youngbuck. Here comes a culling from Lucian, not really landing on anyone to be fair. And Amazing has got so many kills that he's so tanky, he's eating up so much of this. Beautiful Stranglethorns though from Zyra will completely disengage this fight. And good news for Amazing, who is on his last slither of health. Talk about tankiness though, Paul. See, really? I thought he was going to die.
Yeah, that was so well played by Amazing, knowing how tanky he was, just to allow Renekton to get out. That will mean they'll have to concede this this dragon, but at least they didn't die. No one, in fact, died in that team fight because of how tanky everyone was. Dan gets caught, but they won't choose to follow up on that. So, again, another objective picked up by Copenhagen, in fact by Avalanche. Wait, who just picked up that dragon? I got confused. It was in fact Avalanche.
From Lee. Avalanche.
Yeah, okay, so Avalanche picked that up, and Copenhagen Wolves lose a small objective, and now we've got Sliver chasing after Youngbuck as well. Not sure if he can catch up though. Doesn't have the chasing potential, and also uses ultimate before. So, again, it's just blow for blow, and I think that really accurately describes this game.
And just look at Amazing's items right now. Randuin's Omen and Locket of the Iron Solari. That is pretty ridiculous at 23 minutes for tankiness.
Yeah. And it's worth mentioning that a lot of the kills, though, are on that Shyvana, but they've gone for the engage.
Crowstorm comes through on the tower. That's such a good engage, and instantly Soraka will be falling. The ultimate was down anyway. Dragon's Descent comes in. Dragon's Rage instantly back from Lee Sin, having none of that flying dragon this time around. And Amazing is just kind of a sad panda. Can't do a great deal. Can't catch up. And that's going to be a 1-for-0 trade. Could have been a lot worse, though, from Avalanche. They did a pretty good job overall.
Yeah, indeed. But what we were just... what I was just about to say is that, yes, Amazing is incredibly tanky, but that's because he's picked up so many of these kills. And yes, that has been a result of his counter ganks, as he just picks up the... the large Wraith, but he might be picked up here. Again, we've seen how tanky he is, and his team can definitely react. Ball comes in, and the Shockwave!
Yeah, Shockwave, but instantly, look at Countard's positioning, look at the Stranglethorns, disengaging to perfection. Second precise ultimate in a row, and we'll be getting a blue buff. And that's why you have to fear Countard Zyra. It's one of his main champions, he always lands his ults.
Yeah, but unfortunately a lot of the kills are centered on the tank, which is not necessarily ideal when you need some of the damage elsewhere. But still, both these teams are in a position where they have very, very strong team fights. You can't really call who is going to win the team fight. It's all going to be down to the execution. But the longer this game drags on, Vayne is getting ahead of Nasus, and Nasus is their answer to Vayne.
And also, Vayne is starting to escalate past Lucian as well in terms of CS. 230 to 180, 50 CS advantage to Forgiven. And we know what his positioning is like in team fights, especially on Vayne. Already has the Blade of the Rune King and the Phantom Dancer. It's going to be ripping everybody to shreds with the Silver Bolt proc off the W. So definitely one to watch out for here, Pulse, as this game carries on.
Yeah, and well, it's kind of pieces out in mid lane as well. But Nasus has gone for the split pushing style where he maxed the E first, which will be Spirit Fire, something you generally expect from junglers. But he did that in lane. Yes, it worked out at least in the laning phase, but it means you don't have the same stacks as a Nasus who has just been straight maxing Q and farming that through the rest of the game with the cooldown reduction you expect to get from items. And he hasn't got that. He's only got 132, which is pretty low honestly for a solo lane Nasus, which again just kind of weakens Nasus' scaling potential, which is a little bit surprising, but it's kind of their playstyle that they're running.
Yeah, speaking of Nasus, actually just burnt his teleport top to save Lucian's life, forced Vayne away. So no teleport for Nasus, and none of those split pushing into an all-out brawl situations for Copenhagen Wolves to have to worry about. So nice little pickup from them there actually, and that's all down to Vayne just pressuring Lucian at top.
I think the most curious thing to me about Avalanche's playstyle is that they've clearly picked into it and they're clearly itemizing and also skill ordering it into what they want to do, but they never actually quite do it. They just react to Copenhagen Wolves. They're the ones making plays happen. Now they're going towards the Baron area, forcing Avalanche to react to them, and it's making sure that they never quite do what they want to do. And it's kind of upsetting their flow. They want to go for the split push and they want to be really aggressive, but it's really disrupting what they want to do. But Dan gets caught in the backline of Copenhagen Wolves.
Oh, that's absolutely brutal. It's a lovely Dragon's Rage from Lee Sin, to be fair, knocking 3 or 4 players in the air, but sacrificing his life for nothing. Just trying to get some vision in the enemy ward, enemy jungle I should say, or trying to get a ward down around Baron. In doing so, gets killed, 25 seconds on the jungler, and this is all Copenhagen Wolves needed to stop Baron. They need to be careful though. I really like this play from Avalanche. Like, we cannot go in a 5 versus 4, so we're just going to pressure down their mid tower. They should be able to get this one.
Yeah, they will. It has backdoor protection though, because they don't have any minions around. They pick up the Baron and they might just well collapse onto them. Yeah, they cancel the recalls, and if they're not careful about it, yeah, they're making the right call. They're juking into the south jungle, but it still means that Copenhagen Wolves are in fast pursuit. They did clear out of water. They know the path they're taking. Spirit Fire comes out. It's just kind of to show them what's up, and they probably can't quite connect with them, but they're still looking to cut them off.
Yeah, so obviously it's a bit of a catastrophe that Dan died. Oh my god, he could be caught again here. As Copenhagen Wolves are coming around the side. No, he won't be. They're going down for the bigger prey. Dragon's Descent comes in. Instant wither from Anstrom. This could be all she wrote actually from Avalanche. They're completely isolated from their support and also from Dan. That's going to be Nasus, their tankiest player, dying. Beautiful shockwave from Big Goose. Nowhere near enough damage to take anybody out of the equation. 2-for-0 exchange, and they're both dead for around 40 seconds. Vayne chasing after Lucian. This should be a fairly free kill. Lucian's doing a lot of damage, to be fair. He will finally get picked off.
Yeah, and Wolves once again making that big picture play and forcing them into a team fight. Nothing, not something that Avalanche ever want to get into against Copenhagen Wolves, especially when they've just taken Baron. And again, Mother gets caught.
Oh, dearie me. That's kind of been the story for Avalanche these last few minutes. After Dan got caught, a couple more players have, and that is going to equate itself into a lost bottom inhib tower and inhib, and actually the surrender vote comes in Pulse, so that's going to be it for this best of 5. Bit of an anti-climax.
Yeah.
3-1 for Copenhagen Wolves.
It's a fair enough decision. I think after taking that inhibitor, that was a lethal and killing blow to their composition. There was nothing else they could really do. And yes, they had the wave clear, but Nasus hadn't itemized into something that could counter out Vayne when she gets to late game. And the fact that Vayne was so far ahead made it very easy just to itemize something like a Quicksilver Sash, and that's completely mitigated. They didn't have the goals in the right places. They were forced into a style of play that they didn't want to do. They kind of locked themselves into one mind, and when Copenhagen Wolves read it, adapted to it, and over the last couple of games knew what to do, they polished their counterplay, and then